Welcome to the SIP, the Solstice Innovations podcast. In each episode, we chat with industry experts and innovators in insurance and insurtech. Join us for insights on trends, technologies, and the stories driving our industry forward. Let's sip on knowledge together at the SIP. Hi, I'm John Umstead with Solstice Innovations, and on this episode of the SIP, our guest is Chris Black, COO of Ask Fetch. Hey, Chris. Hey, welcome to the SIP. Appreciate you taking a little time to be here. So, Chris, why don't we just go ahead and get right into some things and have you tell us a little bit about your role at Ask Fetch and the origins of Ask Fetch and what it is that you're all about.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Also, really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. I'm one of the three amigos at Fetch. The way that we think about ourselves are there's clearly a distinction. Josh, our developer, is the ones and zeros guy. He's brilliant when it comes to the coding aspect. Trace, the co-founder, Trace and Josh. I would call Trace our high-level thinker, visionary, that understands all aspects of the business and third-generation agent. And then I joined the team about a little over 2 years ago. And my background is in the independent agency world. I grew an independent agency in the state of Florida here and ultimately partnered with a group several years ago. And then Trace called me up and said, "Hey, we got this new thing called Ellie." And that was a few years ago. And so I said, "Well, what's Ellie?" And he showed me Ellie, and I was like blown away. And I could immediately see the use cases of the technology, down the road, and our discussions about where we wanted to go. So I think of us as like a for lack of a better word, like a three-man band, right? Like, so we work together very closely, and we work for the betterment of the independent agency system and to provide tools that are efficient and help with processes. I mean, that's what we're all about, efficiencies.
So what is Ellie, and is that still in production?
Ellie is a tool that we've been developing over the last several years that utilizes some of today's large language model technologies and is designed to act as a digital underwriter that is at our fingertips as insurance agents. So we have the pleasure of being the source of truth for many insurance companies when it comes to their guideline information. And so Ellie is designed to be trained about what the insurance company's guidelines look like. And she's a resource that agents use very, very frequently, daily at this point, to help them find answers to underwriting questions that are otherwise, a manual type process, right? So again, another example of, one tool that is now embedded into our platform that helps agents, right? Helps agents be more effective, be more efficient, do what we do to help our consumers and really show the value of what we are as agents.
Okay. And you were recently at the FAIA conference in Orlando, Florida, and had a booth and making a pretty big splash there. Saw a lot of reference to 21X. Can you tell me a little bit more about what 21X is?
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll talk about it. 21X is the thought that we brought to the market at last week's FAIA convention around a trend that's been growing with consumers and the way that consumers purchase goods and services. So back in 2011, if you can believe that, 14 years ago, MIT did a study of 2,200 organizations that were measuring the likelihood of closing that sale based on the amount of time it took the organization to connect with the prospect. And so what they found was that organizations that can position their product or service within a 5-minute span of time versus a 30-minute span of time are 21 times more likely to close the deal. So when you look at this in a real world example here in the Florida marketplace, this is a list of the top 30 insurance companies in the state of Florida. What I'm concerned about as an agent is number 13. And number 13 is really, if you think about what Ken has been doing over the past several years, they are a 3-year-old startup here in Florida, and they're the 13th largest homeowners insurer as of the end of this quarter, or the end of the first quarter, rather. So you ask yourself how they do that. And if you've ever gotten the Ken experience, you know that you can go to their website. Within 2 minutes, you have a good, better, best option to bind. And before you even are seeing the numbers, they are calling you. It's a massive agency operation that's built on tech, but sells one policy. And they're going in systematically to different states to be able to harness market share. And they're doing it in a big way. And this supports that. So how do agents, right, compete with that? And so that's what 21X is about. Our tools are designed ultimately as efficiency mechanisms for insurance agents. And over the years, the tools have evolved to come to a place where we have what we consider to be a groundbreaking tool that encompasses several different aspects of what we've done, but allows an agent to compete in a level where consumer expectations have changed, right? Consumers want things here, they want it now. They're vacillating to organizations that allow them to kind of dictate, when the transaction occurs. And if you look at the legacy independent agent model, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday is, it's worked historically, but the times have changed. And I think the example of Ken and what they've done with the market share and how they, if you look at 21X, they actually are the only ones that you can specifically say that are imploring 21X to grow their business there. And the results speak for themselves. So the question for me as an agent that, is a second generation agent that, is near and dear to me and my family and everything that's provided for me ever since I was a young man, I think agents are valuable. And I think that, what we're seeing is a trend where more and more agents are being left behind. We're seeing business models like Ken. We're seeing, embedded situations that, overall would leave the agent on the outside looking in a way. So what we have today, which we released last week at the FAIA conference, is a tool that we call EOS. And EOS is our first of its kind agency branded, so a white labeled consumer facing website that allows an agent to compete in this particular digital world that consumers are telling us is they want to do business as. So EOS is a tool that allows our consumers, our prospects, our referral networks a link to us as agents, right? So it brings back the relationship element of what we do as agents. Like, we have, I can speak for myself, but we used to have lots of relationships with great with great mortgage brokers and great real estate agents that, ultimately were one of the reasons why we were successful in business. And so, to have a tool that you can be plugged into those relationships at all time and it's in their pocket is extremely valuable. And the response that we've received since last week and during the show was exceptional. A lot of our carrier partners are loving the opportunity to be a part of that because it's the first time that as a consumer you can really go and get nearly instantaneous quotes through an experience that is like no other.
Consumers want choices that not just between carriers and products, but their own customer experience. They want choices in the customer experience. Some really just want to work directly with an agent. Others would prefer not to talk to a human being if they can at all avoid it, right? So, so it's evolving and changing, and it's great that you're at the forefront of all of that and enabling sort of the best of all worlds. So, but what has been one of the biggest or some of the biggest challenges that you've seen when it comes to bringing those carriers and agents and the digital channels together into more of a unified experience?
Well, structurally, when you look at the business that we have today as a whole, it's a two-sided platform as a service business, right? So think about it as software as a service, but platforms that are two-sided networks where you have consumers, in our case, agents on one side of the network or one side of the platform, and then you have the distributors, or let's call it the manufacturers of the insurance companies, and the distributors as the agents on the other side of the platform. There's a certain amount of chicken and egg that goes with that, right? Like, does the how many agents use your tool, et cetera, et cetera. That was kind of some of the challenges early on. The more agents have seen what we do and the with them, right, the what's in it for them,
Yeah.
They're gravitating to it in a massive way, and they've been instrumental in our success to this point. The reality is, the tools provide agents a way of doing business that they've never before thought of. And, when they start to grasp that, then they have become really the driving force to bring on more and more carrier partners, right? As they see what they're capable of, and what their agency can look like, and what the experience for their consumers can look like, they want that. A lot of people talk about, the consumer that doesn't want to talk to somebody, right? So I don't want to pigeonhole Josh in this, but Josh would prefer to plug the ones and zeros in without communicating with anyone else. And so he built our system so that when and we're the first fully API connected homeowners insurance quoting platform ever. And so he built it in a way so that the configuration and what you would think would be a massive IT lift on our carrier partner side is actually a non-event for them.
Yeah, I like the way you were thinking about it too. We worry about all this technology is going to put people out of work, and it more often either enhances one's ability to do their job, or it perhaps might change the way they do their job. But rarely does technology, at least in my experience, put someone out of a job. And I think you're right about that agent connection, and it's just another tool that they can use to build business.
There's obviously a huge, kind of societal shift in that mindset around, well, is AI going to replace me?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And the reality, the way that we think about it is, this is a tool that enhances what we do as
Yeah,
agents, right? It allows us to get back to the root of what we are trying to do for our clients and our prospect, right? And that's very simple. Two things. As agents, we have to underwrite the risk and we have to price the risk, period. So in order to, get to the point where I like to call it the cheese, in order to get to where the cheese is, which, for an agent, that's where you cash the commission check after you bound the policy, right? So many agents think in those terms, right? I got to get to the cheese. And so what do you have to do? You have to quote, and we have to price the risk, and you have to underwrite it. Well, if you look at historically how the tools have been developed that have gotten us there as agents today, you look at a historical path of in the mid 90s, it's called the Raider, right? And the genesis of the Raider was an auto insurance tool. And when you think about auto insurance, it's very data driven. It's very, here's your VIN number. This is the cost of the car. This is how much comp and collision is going to be for the 17-year-old driver, right? And so it's a quick calculation with fewer variables that all of the if you look at the underwriting of it, most of the carriers are, pretty similar with their underwriting criteria. It's like, maybe this one will give you, coverage if you don't have more than 2 claims or something, who knows. But if you look at the way that technology has been adapted to the homeowners insurance business, the tools that were developed to build auto insurance raters are the same ones that are being used to underwrite and price homeowners risks. And so when you kind of unravel that onion, you start to understand some of the fallacies and start to understand that, okay, well, I have to do 2 things as an agent. Yes, this tool that I'm using today is providing me the price, but it's not underwriting it to a degree where, I'm getting verification that, this does fit with this carrier. So we've reverse engineered it, and we underwrite it fully based on the data from the insurance carriers that participate in our platform, and our proprietary decision engine, which is a filtering mechanism that allows us to look at every possible policy form, policy type that an insurance company will offer, and determine based on qualifying or disqualifying risk factors if the risk fits and on which policy form.
That's an excellent segue actually into my next question, which, kind of wanted to flip the point of view a little bit and look at things from the perspective of the consumer, which is the policyholder. So how do you see, consumer expectations evolving?
The experience that consumers are looking for is one of speed. It's one that they need to feel like they're being met on their time, on their terms, and they are still wanting value in the overall transaction. And so, for me, what that amounts to is, as agents, we have to really train our teams about insurance, right? And what's the right solution for these clients and these prospects.
Chris, I have one more big question for you, and then we'll start to wrap some things up. But so the question is then, what advice would you give to insurance companies or agencies that are looking to modernize without having to overhaul everything at once?
Change is hard.
Uh-huh.
So when people think about a tool like this, they think it's going to be a massive change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the reality is our tool is very flexible, and um, we made these hats actually that we rip off. This one says, "Want to see my API?" But we have one that says, "So simple you won't believe it," and we kind of keep coming back to that one because the tool literally is so simple that you won't believe it, and you almost have to experience it for yourself and experience it with your team in terms of the agency world, so that they understand, what is in it for them. I would say don't be afraid of change, and embrace, have an open mind with new technology in general, and look for ways that it can help you. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to make us better and more productive. And at the end of the day, give us our time back. On the carrier side, carrier execs that are thinking about modernizing, APIs are extremely important. API in today's world is, I think, a necessary way to think about distributing those products and services. So I would say for the organizations that are either newly starting or are in the realm where they're building or thinking about building their APIs, I would put more projects put more emphasis towards those projects, because at the end of the day, having a good API will allow them the flexibility to distribute in a lot of different ways. And so, when you think about the future of distribution for insurance through agents, that has to be API connected, right? Because of the complexities that we go through when we market risks on all different types of business, right? Personal, commercial, you name it.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you being here today. We've covered a lot of ground, but before we sign off, I'd like to just ask if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to.
I think the one thing that maybe I'll say to that is we're probably most excited uh, about the time that we will bring back to agents. The reason why we are in Florida, and we're in Florida first, is because the complexities of the market that we have here are real. And agents for far too long, in our opinion, have had to, sift through and drudge through the mud, so to speak, in very, very hard markets and very complex markets when it comes to, underwriting. And so, because our systems and our philosophies are rooted in underwriting, we're truly uh, we're truly blessed, and we're truly passionate, and we love the fact that our carriers have partnered with us and give us the opportunity to manage that data on behalf of their insurance agents and their distributors. And so um, I I would just say that time is the most important thing, and if we can do anything to affect the ability to give people time back, then it'll be a huge win all the way around.
All right. Well, Chris Black, COO of Ask Fetch, I appreciate you taking time to be on this hip, and wish you well on your journey.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Have a great one.